Good morning, afternoon, and evening, guys. We're back. This time, actually back after a few days of hiatus with a regularly scheduled tier list. Yesterday, I put up a short, but this is a actual tier list. And just to address that elephant in the room, guys, I don't know that I'm going to be able to be posting a video each and every day. I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel with some of my video ideas. Not that my videos have ever been really life or game changing. I definitely did words that rhyme with orange one time, and I was very happy with the result. But a little notice right here at the top that videos may be not every day, every other day, maybe two a day. I don't want to stress about it. I want to put out what's fun and what I think people will, have a laugh at. But today, my video idea, since it's the end of February, it's the end of, at the very least, I'm not sure if this is celebrated everywhere, just in the United States, but at the very least in the United States, February is Black History Month. And today we're looking at some of the inventions made by a famous African-American inventor, George Washington Carver. And he made a lot of stuff. Now, this is really the tip of the iceberg in things that he created. George Washington Carver is credited with over 300 inventions that either he himself created, and a lot of them are like food, either he himself created or he created something that led to that creation. So, for example, no, he did not create Skippy peanut butter specifically, but he is very famous for his work with peanuts, and there would not be peanut butter today without him. And I do believe he created the first type of peanut butter, back then. So we're going to go ahead and ranking his inventions. We have everything here from Lotion to peanut butter to Pickles to Linoleum. We're going to go ahead and rank these on the tier list you see here. Starting at the bottom, we have what is this? Because a couple of these things, I may not really know what it is or what it's good for. We have a not that important tier. These things are they're cool maybe, but not that game changing. We have a useful tier. It's useful, but nothing, crazy. Very good, game changing, self-explanatory. Cannot live without will be the absolute top tier stuff, except one or two things may end up in the actual absolute top tier category. That purple category there at the top will be for things that I personally cannot live without. And seeing as a lot of this is food, guys, you are going to have to bear with me because you probably like different food than I do. So let's see if I can match your tastes or my tastes, or if you'll have to just dislike this video out of disgust. We'll see. With all that said, let's get into it. Starting right here with Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce is useful, and I'm probably mispronouncing that word. It is useful. It is a good ingredient. I have used it before. I do have some in my fridge. It might be expired. And the fact that it might be expired is not because I'm a bad cook. That has nothing to do with this. It's because I just don't use it that much. Right? It's just not that important, not very useful. I'm sure some cooks out there would love Worcestershire sauce, but if you're an avid cook, I'm also sure you could find an alternative for this sauce that uses maybe some of its ingredients. If you've never used Worcestershire sauce, it has a very, very strong and almost overpowering taste. You don't use that much of it when you cook with it. And to be honest, I could not tell you what it tastes like. I just know it tastes good with like beef and broccoli and I guess meat and vegetables. So, yeah, not that important. Next, we have milk. Now, this is one of those inventions, like I said, George Washington Carver, I don't believe invented milk. People, humans have been drinking milk for thousands of years. But the modern way of processing milk, George Washington Carver lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So the modern way of processing milk, I would say a lot of people cannot live without. Milk is still a very, very, very popular staple in many people's households. I don't drink a lot of milk myself, and I do think it's less popular in my generation. I think a lot of my generation has moved away from the, milk is so healthy thing, because it's not as healthy as we were kind of led to believe when we were kids. I'm not saying it's unhealthy, but it's not the be-all, end-all of health. And personally, I prefer almond milk now. So, yeah, that might be comment number one that you need to address down below. I'm ready for it. All right, next up we got some, looks like vegetable oil. We have a couple oils in here. We have vegetable oil, vinegar, which I guess is an oil, and we have cooking oil. I'm sorry, so this is salad oil, and this is vegetable oil over here. I'll go ahead and do these together. So we have vegetable oil, and vegetable oil cannot live without, as is cooking oil. Actually, I'm going to say vegetable oil is game changing, because there's other things you can put on like vegetables and salad in general, that is not as game changing. Now, I'm sure like ranch didn't always exist, but or like blue cheese, which blue cheese is great, by the way, at me. Yeah, vegetable oil, I think I'm even going to drop it to very good here. I don't think it's that important. But cooking oil is. You cannot really cook very easily without cooking oil. You either need butter or oil, right? For most pans if they're not nonstick. And then that it just adds some more flavor. Or it can add some more flavor to your cooking and whatnot. So I'd say a lot of people can't live without that in the modern, world. Next up, we have two types of pickles. We have sweet pickles and we have regular dill pickles. So George Washington Carver credited with the invention of the pickle, or at least perhaps the modern form of the pickle. Sweet pickles, I don't think are that good, honestly. They're not great. And regular pickles, I'm not a huge fan of. I'd say they're useful. I think the world would continue to turn if we didn't have pickles. And granted, the world would continue to turn if we didn't have any of this, but you get my point. Pickles are not that great. I think regular pickles are good. Add them to the burger, add them to some certain pastas, add them to some like shawarma. It can be good. But sweet pickles, not so much. Next up, we have milk chocolate malt nuts. So I'm going to do this one along with this. This is fudge peanut butter. So two combinations of chocolate and peanut butter. George Washington Carver experimented heavily with peanut butter, but also with cocoa and with the kind of modern form of cocoa, taking it from something that was not as easily accessible and turning it into something very accessible and very commonly used in sweets. So both of these, a combination of that. And I think both would be very good. I'm not going to separate them. I'm going to put them right next to each other in the very good category. I think peanut butter is an awesome thing to have in desserts because you can't just eat chocolate all day, every day. And those people that say that you can are incorrect, and you should not listen to them. Next up, speaking of desserts, we have peanut brittle. Peanut brittle's good. It's not that good. It's annoyingly crunchy, actually, I'd say. But it's useful. I mean, it's a good invention, right? It's a good snack. It's a good thing. I'm not that crazy about it. So I'm going to put it down useful here next to the dill pickle. And you can let me know below if you are a peanut brittle fanatic. Next up, we have glue. Absolute top tier invention. Honestly, I think we have to put that all the way up at the top. Because how do you live your life without glue, right? If you break something, do you just scotch tape it? Right? Everything in your life. Imagine if we didn't have glue at all. And like I said, I'm not sure how much of this, Carver invented himself. Did he create glue as we know it today, or did he create some form of glue that developed into this? I'm not sure, honestly. But if he had a hand in the invention of glue, absolute top tier. Cannot live without. Next up, we have peanut butter surprise. I'm not sure what this is. Is it just a cookie with peanut butter and chocolate inside? Because when I Googled it, it was a bunch of dessert that came up. But I'm not sure what that is. I'll actually link the list in the description of where I got all these inventions from, and I definitely left some off because I wasn't sure what they were, or it just wasn't things that I really felt would be fun to talk about. So I'll link that in the description down below. It came from a university. I don't have it up in front of me of what university that came from, but you will see it in the description down below. Continuing on here, we have vinegar. Vinegar cannot live without. Essential ingredient in so many different things. From buffalo sauce to Easter egg dye. Yes, my priorities are in check. To other stuff. Vinegar can be used for cleaning. My wife keeps telling me that. Yeah, I think it's good. Vinegar's good. Next up, we have, I think it's a hair oil. I should have kept my list up on the side. Let me see if I can zoom in here. I can't. Oh, this is an oil. It says for back pain and muscle soreness and arthritis. Oh, this is rubbing alcohol. Okay, so rubbing alcohol. Probably game-changing. Personally, I don't think I've ever used it unless... I've used Vicks. Does Vicks count? Is Vicks rubbing alcohol? I don't know. I've used alcohol. It's not the same thing, I don't think. Rubbing alcohol, game-changing. Any medicine is going to be game-changing, especially if it was originally created in the 1800s. Very, very different world 150 years ago. So having inventions like this, I'm sure, was nothing short of game-changing. Pesticides. I think pesticides is also a game-changer. I'm not going to put cannot live without, because I think that human beings for thousands and thousands of years survived without pesticides and farmed and, produced produce. Yeah. Produced produce, fine, without pesticides. But I think the pesticides obviously do make that easier, but then you have the issue that some pesticides can be poisonous, and then they can poison our food, and then you have to know what you're doing. I don't know. There's a lot to that. But pesticides, I do think, are good in, like, the theory of them, right? Is to keep these bugs off our plants so that we can produce more plants. Like, the economic benefits of that is a no-brainer. So I'd say that it's a game-changing invention there. Next up, we have pomade. Pomade, kind of like gel, right? But looser. Pomade's very good, right? Give you some good look in your hair there. This one's from American Crew. Haven't used that one. Have used pomade though. Pretty good. Next up, we have ink. Now this specifically said printer's ink and writer's ink, and they didn't really have the modern printers back then. They did have some printers, but not our modern form of printers. So I assume that it helped us get to this modern, invention. But I mean, just think of the world without ink, or without some way to remotely, not remotely, some way to put words down on a paper without having to use a pencil every time. I think ink is an absolutely top tier invention, very very important. Whatever step George Washington Carver was in with that, whether he was the original developer of it or somewhere in the middle, I think very very important. All right, next up we have peanut butter. We have creamy, and I grabbed crunchy. And I'm going to say that creamy peanut butter, pretty useful. It's a great a snack. You can have it with a lot of things. Put it right there with the peanut brittle. Crunchy peanut butter, though, absolutely game-changing. It steps up its game when you add those peanuts into it. It creates a better snack. There's more to it. It's healthier for you because you're getting more of the nutrients there that comes from the peanut. All right. All jokes aside, peanut butter, very good. I'm leaving this stuff how it is, though, because of my tier list. Pancake mixed. Probably game-changing. The ability to make pancakes without having to use flour and eggs and everything. It's allowed a lot of Americans, and probably people around the world, to make pancakes a lot quicker. In the morning, maybe before school, before work, or just in the morning where you don't want to get out all of your baking instruments. I think, having pancake mix is a awesome thing to have. And honestly, I've never made pancakes without pancake. Maybe once or twice I've made it without mix. But almost always I've used mix for pancakes, and that's just kind of how we do it nowadays. Next up, we have salted peanuts. Similar thing here with the crunchy peanut butter. I think it's a great snack. It's kind of like a go-to snack, right? You go to like a baseball game, or I'm assuming other sports games, I don't know. Baseball games are outside, which I think just means eat nuts for some reason. That doesn't make sense now that I say it out loud. Anyway, salted peanuts, great snack. Laundry detergent. You wash your clothes with it. That's very important. Can you imagine a world if we didn't wash our clothes? Yeah, it would be bad. Give you guys a sec to think about that one. Olay. This is hand lotion, I think. So we have a hand lotion here. I'm going to put this down here. We have a hand lotion, and we have a... Oh, this is the hand lotion. So this would be the face lotion, right? So, lotions. Very good, especially for people with dry skin. Being able to keep their skin looking younger, healthier, and not just looking, but actually being healthier, moisturizing it, and also keeping your hands clean and moisturized, and everything. I mean, that's going to be game-changing for a lot of people. I personally do not have dry skin, so I don't use it moisturizer as much as I probably should. In fact, well, I suppose if you have a tattoo, you should be using it a lot, right? So I think that's mostly how I use mine, for my tattoos. But lotion, game-changing. I mean, modern cosmetics, right? Next up, we have 4 types of drink, and I'm going to grab all of them. We have a Blackberry Punch, a Cherry Punch, a Plum Punch, and a Pineapple Punch. Now, these are all alcoholic beverages, but I don't know that Carver's original invention was actually an alcoholic drink. I think it was just the concept of extracting juice in a feasible and economic way from these different fruits, from these different plants, because that's what he specialized in, and fruits come from plants. And I think all of these are going to be very... Oh, grabbed the wrong one. I think all of these are going to be very good. I think that somebody would have probably figured out juice without him, and you could probably make that case for most of the things on this list, but I mean, you'd still have apple juice, you still have orange juice, you still have other options if it wasn't for Carver, but these specific four he offered, wide variety of juices and different ingredients for things can be made out of these. I think it's a very good invention. Next up, I'm going to, again, put two things together because we have butterscotch and caramel right here. So we have butterscotch and caramel. Caramel. How do you say that? Is it caramel? Is it caramel? Is it caramel? I don't think anybody says that one. Yeah, so this one, and then also butterscotch. I think both of these are... Butterscotch is probably very good. I could go my life without butterscotch. Butterscotch is probably useful. I probably do like butterscotch more than like pickles and peanut brittle. But I also have them more often than I have butterscotch. Butterscotch is just like a really niche dessert. So I'm going to leave that down here in useful. Caramel, probably very good. It's a good dessert ingredient, whatever, but doesn't really make the world go round. I'm going to put it up here with the other chocolate and nut combinations. Next up, we have mock meat. Because Carver was involved in so many vegetable and just plant-based industries, he had many creations that were mock or faux meat, from duck to beef to chicken, pretty much everything. I know he worked with a lot of more, what I would consider more like Asian-style recipes with things like tofu and chop soy and sprouts. So he's inventing things, or at least producing things, in a way that isn't using meat. And I have two examples of that on here. We have just mock meat in general. This is showing some Beyond and Impossible products, as well as jackfruit. And then this is a peanut meatloaf. So it's not actually meat, it's made with peanut and other things. I think that mock meat is really important. I don't know that peanut meatloaf is specifically. This one will put that, not that important. But I think mock meat is something that the world should not live without. People have different opinions on eating meat or whatnot. You do need some of the nutrients that meat does give you to live, but you can get them in other places if you know what you're doing and if you, are paying attention to your diet. And there are people with dietary restrictions that makes it not that great to eat meat. So having another option there, I think mock meats are also more healthy if you, like I said, are paying attention to your diet and, paying attention to what you are ingesting. There's also the whole case of, cows polluting the world, which is a whole another rabbit hole. But I'll say that mock meat is in a cannot live without option for a lot of people, or should be. I mentioned it already as well. We have chopped soy sauce specifically, that they invented. And this is something I usually think of with more like Chinese restaurants or Chinese food in general. So I'm not sure if it was something that Carver brought over here to the United States, or if he developed an American version of it. But I'd say that's useful. I'd say, developing different palettes of food for the American taste buds, because he was primarily active in the South, which has a very traditional style of cooking. I think bringing some more stuff to that is an awesome thing. I think chopped soy is definitely useful. Along those lines, we also have chili paste, which is... Apologies, my cat decided my video has gone on too long. We will try to wrap it up. Oh, what was I? Chili paste. I'm going to put chili paste or chili sauce a little higher here. I think it's game-changing to be able to add spice to your food. There is a lot of ways to do that. Vinegar doesn't add spice, but it does go with spice. I'll put chili paste in game-changing. I think it's a really good ingredient. I think this is actually chili oil, but same difference. Cocoa. Cannot live without cocoa. Chocolate in general. I mean, could you? Yeah, probably, and it'd probably be healthier to do so. But chocolate's just in so many things, and it's a just go-to guilt meal, or for people who are trying to eat healthy or have a sweet tooth in general. I'm rambling. Chocolate, cannot live without. It's good. Next we have shampoo. I'm going to put that in absolute top tier. We have not gotten any food up there. I don't want anybody to discount the importance of shampoo. Please use it. If you have hair, you need it. Thank you. Miralax. Laxatives in general, not Miralax specifically, but laxatives in general were invented by George Washington Carver, and I think that's something we should not try to live without. If you are in the case where you need a laxative, you should be thankful for George Washington Carver. Continuing on here, we have linoleum. Linoleum is definitely a useful flooring. It's a much cheaper alternative to hardwood and non-carpeted floors. And I'll be honest that I don't know much of the implications of having a linoleum floor. I definitely had one time in an apartment, and it was kind of cheap. But yeah, other than that, I can't tell you much about linoleum. I think it's probably useful. But that's all I got. I know it's cheap, or cheaper than other options. So. Next up, we have a couple different types of dye. We have fabric dye, we have wood stains, and then we have leather dye. So fabric dye, I think, is definitely game-changing. Wood staining, I'd probably put in very good. And leather dye, probably put that in game-changing as well. Just being able to dye your clothes, dye the things that are often going on in your home. I think wood staining is a little less important since you don't wear that around. I mean, you do want your house to look good. So I'll put it in the very good category. But I think being able to dye clothes especially and just all other types of fabric is a game changer for sure. Gasoline, I don't think we can live without it. Due to its impact on the environment, I'm not going to put it in absolute top tier, even though we would not be where we are at today without the invention of gasoline and the use of gasoline over the last century. I do think we're slowly but surely moving away from it with electric cars and whatever. But yeah, I think that gasoline cannot live without currently, and for the last 100 years definitely have not been able to either. Buttermilk. I don't think buttermilk is that important. Again, I'm not a chef. I'm not a baker. Let me know in the comments section if buttermilk is incredibly important for something that I'm not thinking of. Peanut sprouts. I don't even really know what this is. Like, I know it's the sprouts that come off the peanuts. I understand that. And I understand that it's probably a food. But that's all I got. I don't know anything else about this. So, let me know. Rubber. Absolute top tier. How can you have cars without rubber? Right? How can you have so many of the things that we have? I mean, rubber is used on, cars, tires, I just said that. Conveyor belts, right? They probably use rubber. Rubber ducks. Okay, we could probably survive without those. But, you guys get the point. Car tires, conveyor belts, other stuff, rubber, absolute top tier. Toilet soap. I don't know what the difference between toilet soap and regular soap is. However, I'm going to go on a limb and say that soap is important and that it's top tier. Next up, we have ground. This was like a ground or like peanut byproduct, I think. I think it's like peanut meal. I know it's a byproduct of like a lot of peanut processing. What is this? Like, what is it used for? Is it used as feed? Is it used to produce something else? I don't actually know what this is used for. I know the concept because a lot of like vegetables and nuts like produce a byproduct like this, but yeah, I don't know what this one specifically is for. Cream cheese. Cream cheese is a game changer. Very good food. Very good ingredient in general. I think it's awesome. Gonna put that in game changing. Mock oysters. Useful. Now, I don't actually know what kind of mock oysters George Washington Carver invented or created or developed. When I looked that up, I found a lot of mushrooms, and people are saying that, like, oh yeah, you can make like a mock oyster dish, using mushrooms as the oyster because it has a similar consistency, similar flavor, and it will absorb taste the same way. It's not a very overpowering flavor. So I think this is useful. Yeah. I don't have much else to say about that. Next, we have chocolate-covered peanuts. I gotta put this with the other chocolate-covered peanut concoctions in the very good category. Anytime you mix chocolate and peanut butter, it is a good thing. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. We have chopped or shredded peanuts. Gonna put these in useful. Personally, there are better ways to eat peanuts in my opinion. I'd rather eat whole peanuts or even peanut butter or peanut butter with chocolate. But it is definitely useful. I mean, it's a good snack, for sure. Next we have lard. Lard is useful in a lot of cooking and stuff, but it's also incredibly unhealthy and kind of gross when you think about it. What is it? Animal fat, right? But in the same way that, cooking oil is something we cannot live without in some cultures and in some times, I'm sure lard was something we cannot live without. But I'm going to be moving this down to useful now because I do think there are better alternatives now. And then finally we have peanut cream, or cream candy. I don't know. This is what came up when I searched it. I don't know what this is. I don't know. That's what I got. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section if you know what any of these are better than I do, if any of my lists don't make sense, if any of these spots are where they absolutely should not be. And if you like random tier lists like this, I would definitely appreciate a subscribe to the channel. I post videos. Well, I used to post every single day. Might be cutting back on that. We'll see. I might be back tomorrow. I might be back the next day. But when I come back, when I post another video, it'll be a random tier list because that's what I do here. With all that said, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.